Gazina Jacobs is suing her former tenants, Benjamin Nelson and his girlfriend Vanessa Enghorn, for rent, utility bills, and for severely damaging her rental property.
Ms. Jacobs, you rented a unit that you had, apartment,
Yes.
to the defendants. They were referred to you by a neighbor. According to your complaint, you had to evict them. They owed you rent. You want your rent. You want the damage that they did to your apartment, which you say was substantial. Mr. Nelson and Ms. Eichhorn say you owe them money. You kept their security deposit. They did not cause any damage to the unit. They were current in their rent until you shut off their electricity and their power, and they have a counterclaim. What kind of work do you do, Mr. Nelson?
I'm a handyman, mechanic, painter. I do a lot of things.
Do you work for anybody or you work for yourself?
I work for myself.
And what do you do?
I'm a hostess.
It's just the two of you in the unit?
Yes.
And how much was the rent?
$9.60 a month, plus electric and gas.
Which you were supposed to pay for yourself.
Yes.
When did you move in?
I believe it was September of '06.
When did they move in?
They moved in at the end of January of '07, and the lease agreement started 1st of February of '07.
I don't think that's right. We
Can I
lived
see
there
the
longer
lease,
than that.
please?
I have the lease agreement.
Are you on any prescribed medication, Mr. Nelson?
No.
You moved in February of '07, sir, not in September of '06. Okay. So, first let's start with the question of utilities. According to your answer, you say she agreed to rent us the unit and we signed the lease for $9.60 a month, including utilities. Now you say you were supposed to pay your own utilities.
Electric and gas, yes.
You were supposed to pay your own utilities. Did you put them in your name?
Right before
Eventually
we
we
got
had
evicted.
to.
What do you mean eventually you had to? You had to when you moved in February.
Well, they were in her name up until then because it was part of the agreement that our utilities would be included in the $9.60 rent.
Not according to him.
According to this evidence in these papers, that's what it was. It was in her name for a long time.
Well, it was, of course. It had to be in somebody's name.
Yes, and until she turned it off without notice.
Just a second. Were you supposed to pay the utilities?
Yes.
Why didn't you put the utilities in your name starting in February?
Because that wasn't part of the agreement that we had.
Of course it was.
We didn't have the money at the time.
That may be an answer.
So we agreed to do it when we had the money.
Yeah.
Just a second. When did you have the money?
I believe April or May.
By April, she had already turned off the utilities.
That's when we got it in our name.
Because you didn't pay them. When did you move out?
We moved out around the beginning of June, around June 10th.
June 9th was our last day.
So you owe her rent for February, March, April, May, and June. 5 months.
No,
That is not true.
We've paid her up until like the last 2 months before we moved out.
I'm telling you that that's what you owe her.
Okay.
Show me that you paid 5 months' rent. If you didn't give her rent for 5 months, tell me when you stopped paying her rent.
I always brought her cash. I stopped paying her rent on about end of April. I stopped paying rent because I didn't have the money because I lost my job.
All right, fine. So far, you owe her $1,150 in rent, and you didn't pay the utilities for February, March, and April. I assume that they paid them in May because then they had to put them in their own name. At least
Yes,
you were
exactly.
off the hook. So how much do they owe you for utilities?
Utilities is, I got the receipts right here, $767.69.
Now, you have pictures of the damage to the apartment?
I sure do.
I'd like to take a look at it.
There's several sets of pictures. I also have a list from the repair person and the checks that I did pay a person to repair the $4,000 worth of damages.
How did these holes get in the wall?
That was a prior roommate.
Whose roommate?
Ours. A bad selection of a roommate.
Well, you owe her for this damage.
Yes, I believe we do. We're responsible because
You
that
are.
was
It's your
my
roommate. You go find your roommate.
Yeah.
I'm putting in a small claim right now.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That master bedroom, I know it was their bedroom, and right below those holes was their mattress. So, yeah, you can see her head there,
Your
right
Honor,
where he...
that is untrue. She's made a lot of allegations about us, about him doing bad things to hurt me, a lot of why reason why those holes are in our walls.
When was the last time the police were called to any residence where you have ever lived for domestic violence?
Never. Just this once. If she'd called.
Just a second. When in any of your residences were the police called on a complaint of domestic violence?
None that we know of.
She just said once.
Well,
No,
we believe that's what she called about.
Yeah,
Because they showed up, but nothing was ever done about it because nothing was wrong.
They showed up at the residence because they were looking for him. Because
This
he was
apartment is a pigsty. Don't you clean?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we had a roommate that came in while we were at work and damaged a lot of
It's
stuff.
filthy. That doesn't happen from a messy roommate. That happens from people who live like pigs.
I don't live like a pig, Your Honor.
Well, you did.
had
I
to
never
go
saw
through-
a
I had
place
to
so
go
filthy.
through- I had to go through my house in 2 days' time, and I had to pretty much tear everything apart that I had and find what was sentimental to me, pack it up, and then start throwing a lot of my things away.
Should have paid your rent.
Your Honor.
You should have paid your rent. That's what happens when you don't pay rent or utilities.
We had agreed to start paying it off. We had actually started paying it off, and
Listen, she's not your mother.
I know.
She's your landlord. The first thing that you did was you moved into the apartment. You were supposed to put the utilities in your name. You didn't. Then you have a counterclaim that she had no right to turn off the utilities because she got tired of paying $767 for your utilities. Well, then you had no choice, but you put them in your name. At least she's off the hook. I don't know whether you stiffed the utility company or not. I assume you did. Now, then you leave an apartment like a pigsty and you blame it on a roommate. Well, so far it's everybody's fault but yours. Everybody else is wrong. She's wrong.
I'm taking responsibility since it was my roommate.
I really think it was your roommate, sir.
We've had...
I don't necessarily think it was your roommate. I don't believe necessarily it was your roommate just because you say it. Do you understand?
Oh, I understand.
Good. I'm glad you do. Okay, so far you owe her $19.17 just for your rent and the utilities.
And that's the detailed list of what was repaired.
Oh,
Nothing was repaired, Your Honor, except for the holes in the walls, because I live right next to that place, and so does my neighbor, and she happens to walk by and she sees our things are still being used. A refrigerator that she said was damaged that we need to pay for to replace, still being used. It was like that before we moved
That's a
in.
lie.
Show them these pictures, please.
The refrigerator was not repaired, and the refrigerator I'm not suing for. I'm just suing for the repairs Mr. Bean did on my rental unit.
Your Honor, I was going through all these items. That's why it looks like a pigsty like this.
Hey, just take a look at the toilet. The toilet isn't going through the items. That toilet hasn't been cleaned, it looks like, in 6 months. You owe $5,000 for your cleanup, for your rent, and for your utilities. Now, give me 30 seconds or less on your counterclaim. Let's go!
We don't believe we owe her because nothing was fixed before we even moved in.
Forget it. Next.
All of our stuff that was in the house, she told us we would have 2 days and we had
Why
nowhere to
didn't
go.
you get your stuff out?
We stayed up
had
all night trying to get our stuff out.
We had
but
2
we had a
days
house
time
full of
to do
stuff,
it.
so we got
Did
out
you
what
pay
we
rent
could.
in June?
I was giving her a couple hundred every
Did you
week.
pay rent in June?
Not in full, no.
Counterclaim's dismissed. You owe $5,000. That's all.
Thank
Out.
you, Your Honor.
Stephanie Young says former live-in boyfriend Raymond LaChance owes for rent on their shared apartment. Raymond is countersuing for half of 1 year's living expenses.
I usually don't like to prejudge things, Mr. LaChance, but I think that you're not a very honorable person. According to the complaint that I read, sir, you and the plaintiff were involved in a relationship. You thought it was going to be a solid one. You signed a lease on an apartment, correct?
Correct.
And after 3 weeks, the thing didn't work out.
Correct.
And you agreed that she would leave and you would stay in the apartment.
I was staying in the apartment, yes.
And when you were staying in the apartment, according to the plaintiff, you were staying with someone whose name was?
Jacob Cannon.
You were staying with someone whose name was Jacob. And when she left, according to her, Jacob was paying her half of the rent so that you weren't out any additional money. Then, according to the plaintiff, you told her you were moving out of the apartment. So far correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And she didn't want to ruin her credit, so she paid the rent, right?
Yes, ma'am.
When she goes to the apartment to get something, she sees all your stuff there because you had moved back in. But you let her pay the rest of the rent, believing that he was out of the
gone.
apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
Your excuse is that you were forced to pay the rent yourself for 7 months because of
Correct.
her, and therefore you decided that she should pay the rest of the rent.
Her name's on that lease. She's just as liable as I am.
Mr. LaChance, in what month did you sign the lease?
We signed that in May of 2006.
And she left in May of 2006.
She left June 2nd, 2006.
6/2. Did she pay May's rent?
Actually, I paid it.
You mean you paid it alone?
I paid it alone, yes.
Why is that?
I had recently come into some money at about the end of April playing online poker. It's what we used to move out here. It covered all our moving trucks.
So you paid the May rent?
Correct.
Okay. Now, when did Jacob move in?
Jacob was with us from the beginning.
And how much was the rent in the apartment?
$569 a month.
And how much was Jacob paying?
He was not paying for any of the rent.
And how long did you let him stay?
He stayed until November.
So you're telling me you did not try to find another roommate between June and November because you were letting Jacob stay there rent-free?
Correct.
Now I'm going to respond to your statement.
Okay.
The reason you had to pay the rent is because your behind was sleeping in the apartment. Hers was not. And you had a roommate who should have been paying half the rent.
From July till November, he was never home. It was predominantly a storage space for his stuff. I helped him out every now and then.
Then
He
it's
was
your
never,
responsibility, sir, to find another roommate.
I was unable to find another roommate.
Show me what efforts you made to find another roommate.
I had friends at work.
Now
tried
let's
to
go
make
a
some
little
kind
further, Mr. LaChance.
I don't
When
have
did you?
anybody
I'm
in
speaking
town.
to you. When did you call Miss Young and tell her that you were moving out of the apartment?
I was finally able to get a hold of her. It would have been end of November.
And you told her you were moving out in December?
Yes, ma'am.
And had you paid November's rent?
At that point,
It's not an answer, sir. Did you pay November's rent?
November was paid, yes.
Fine. And you moved out in December?
Yes, ma'am.
And you paid December's rent?
Yes, ma'am. It was actually a lot more.
Shh.
Okay.
So you called her and let her know that you were moving out in December, and if she wanted to keep her credit, she better start paying the rent.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you move back to the apartment, Mr. LaChance?
I moved back in January of 2007.
So you were out of the apartment for 1 month.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you call and tell her you moved back?
I was unable to get a hold of her.
Did you call and
I
tell
called.
her you moved back into the apartment?
I called, yes.
So that I assume you paid January's rent.
I did not pay January's rent.
I assume you paid February's rent.
I did not pay February.
That's why I told you when we started this case that I thought your behavior was abominable because it was dishonest, totally dishonest. Moving out is one thing. Saying, listen, I'm moving out of the apartment. Your name's on the lease, my name's on the lease. I lived here for the last few months, so I paid the rent. But now I'm moving out, just like you moved out. So I think if we want to both keep our credits intact, maybe you don't need it because if you make a living doing online poker, maybe you don't need your credit intact. She does. So maybe we should just join forces, pay this lease out, whatever. But that's not what you did. You were able to contact her when you wanted to move out. But when you moved back and knew that she was going to be paying the rent and you were going to be living there rent-free, then you couldn't contact her. That's not very nice, sir. Now, when did you find out he was still living there?
I had the locks changed March 26th, and
was
he
locked out.
called
So
me.
you paid December, January, February, and March.
Yes, ma'am. I also paid April.
And April. When did you go and check the apartment?
Well, I moved back to Florida, and the apartment's in Texas, so I couldn't just go there. And I said, I want to have the locks changed because I believe someone's still living there.
What made you think someone was still living there?
Because once he stopped paying the electric bill, it went back into the apartment's name. So they were getting the bill, and she was sending it to me. So if there's electric, someone's living there. So I said, I would like to have the locks changed. I paid the $25, and I got a call from Raymond that night saying,
I'm an authorized tenant in that place. There was no reason to have me
Mr.
locked out.
LaChance, don't you understand? You did something that was amoral, dishonest, dishonest. Don't you get it?
To me, dishonest was leaving 3 weeks into the lease.
No, Mr.
She committed
LaChance,
herself
that's
for a year.
ridiculous, sir. You weren't getting along. I don't even care why you weren't getting along. You were dishonest. You said, I'm moving out, and then you moved back without telling her. And the only time you contacted her again, and you were able to contact her again, you said, I couldn't call and tell her I was moving back because I couldn't contact her. So you were able to call her when you were moving out, and you were able to call her after she changed the locks. But you couldn't call her that critical time to tell her you were moving back into the apartment. She didn't have to pay the rent anymore.
I had left voicemails. I had sent
Listen to
messages.
me. Dishonest. What kind of work do you do?
I am a waiter at a restaurant.
What else do you do?
I play online poker.
Dishonest. So you owe her for rent for 5 months. You also owe for the electricity while you were there. How much?
It was $2,100.
Now, it's my understanding from your complaint that you have a witness who was able to testify that for the first few months after you left, the rent was paid.
Yes, ma'am.
Call the witness.
I would like Jacob Knudsen to come out.
You swear to tell the truth in these matters?
Yes, sir.
State your name for the record, please.
Jacob Knudsen.
Okay. Do you live in the apartment with Mr. LaChance from June until December?
I left early November, but yes, June is correct.
When you were there in June, July, August, September, and October, those 5 months, did you contribute to the rent?
Most of the time. The only month that I was not able to contribute to my full share of the rent was the beginning of October, due to the fact that I lost my job.
I don't care why you didn't contribute in the month of October. You didn't contribute in the month of October. Yes. You paid rent in June?
Yes.
How much?
$285.
And you gave that to him in check or cash?
Cash.
That was June. What about July?
Yes.
You paid him in July?
Yes.
August?
Yes.
The full amount, to either
$285, yes.
What about September?
September, yes.
But not October?
No.
And what happened in November?
November, I was still out of work, and I contacted my mother and borrowed $400 from her in order to pay my half at the beginning of November. I have a Western Union voucher right here.
Can I see it, please?
Yes. The Western Union voucher that states that I got $400 from my mother in order to pay my half of the bills.
So if Mr. LaChance said that you were there and you stayed there sporadically,
I was not home very much, yes.
and that you did not pay any rent to him at all, would that be the truth or a lie, sir?
A lie.
And you were his friend?
Yes.
Who do you know longer?
I know them both about the same amount of time.
But you stayed with him
Yes.
when she left?
Yes, in order to help him with the bills.
Perfect. Good. Anything else you want to say to me? Anybody? Perfect. You owe her $2,100, Mr. LaChance, because you're a dishonest person. Because you're a dishonest person, I'm dismissing your counterclaim for half of the expenses for the time that it is clear that you had help with the rent, because that's what your counterclaim was mainly about. You will always come into contact with people, Mr. LaChance, in this life that are smarter than you are. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Goodbye.
26-year-old Noah Riskin is suing his ex-girlfriend, 22-year-old Lindsay Robinson, for her share of a backpacking trip through Europe. Lindsay claims the trip was a gift.
Mr. Riskin, Miss Robinson used to be your girlfriend.
Correct.
And it is your claim that you took a backpacking trip to Europe.
Yes.
And you advanced some money for Miss Robinson, who was supposed to pay you back.
Correct.
Miss Robinson says the trip was a treat, your treat, and there was never any discussion about paying you back for the trip. And she is counterclaiming, she alleges you have some property of hers, a baby book, and she wants some punitive damages because she says you are stalking her. How long were you a couple?
For 7 months.
From when to when?
From mid-June, I believe it was, up until Valentine's Day.
And when was the trip?
We left on January 20th, returned February 19th.
So you were really a couple from June until January, because when I understand from reading your papers that when you took this trip, you each went your own way for a good part of the trip. You traveled independently. It wasn't a romantic getaway for the two of you, right?
Correct.
You didn't live together, did you?
We did.
You were living together.
Yes.
You had enough of each other from June to January. You wanted to be a little separated?
My intention of going to England and Scotland was to backpack, to go as many places as I could. Lindsay told me that she wanted to get a feel for life out there and stay in York for a week or two.
Wonderful. Terrific. How come you advanced the money?
Lindsay came up to me after the tickets were purchased, said that she had talked to some friends of her back home, and they told her that she needed roughly $1,000 per week, conversion rate being about 51 cents per pound. I'm sorry, $1 per 51 pence.
Oh, please, let's move on.
She did not have that money. I offered a loan.
I asked you what was said. Don't say I said to her, I will give you a loan. I want to hear what was said by her and what was said by you. Do you understand? And if it doesn't sound right, it's usually not true, Mr. Riskin. You get it?
I did.
Good.
So I went ahead and loaned her the $2,500.
Okay, Miss Robinson, since he can't get it together, I want you to tell me how it came about that you, A, took money from him for the tickets, and B, took money from him for spending. I think it was $2,500.
Yes.
Tell me how it came about.
He told me he was going. I told him I couldn't go with him. He asked me to go. I said
I want you to keep your voice up and speak slowly so that I can hear you.
Okay. He said he was going to Europe on a backpacking trip. I said, I can't go with you. I was going to use the month to move out anyway. He said, go with me, go with me.
You were going to use the what? I don't hear you. I want you to tell me how it came about that you took money from him for the tickets and took money from him for spending.
The month that he was going, I said I'm going to move out and see where it goes from there. So
look at me.
I told him to let me know when he bought the tickets and I would make a decision because he kept asking and asking. So when I called him, he said he bought 2 tickets. I'd said no and he bought the ticket anyway. As far as money goes, I told him, well, I still don't have the money to go, and he offered to give me money for that too. We went to the bank together. He deposited it into my account.
What's wrong with you?
I listened to him, I guess.
No, but you didn't listen to him, I guess. If you were not happy with him and if you were moving out, why did you take all that money from him?
Because...
Because why?
Because I thought he was doing a nice thing. He told me it was going to be a gift, and I believed him. And he told me he didn't want the money back.
That's not my question to you. I'm talking about being a moral person. Let's say I believe you, which I'm not sure I do. Let's say I believe you. Why would you, since you knew that he was anxious for you to go, since you knew that he was anxious for you, perhaps not to break up this relationship that you had had for 7 months, why would you, knowing what you knew, take money from him? Because as soon as you came back, you broke up, right? Right?
Before we got back, we broke up.
Well, before, but you already got yourself there on his ticket, and you already had $2,500 of his money.
Yeah.
Well, that's wrong.
I know. I know. I thought it was something that it wasn't, and I should have listened to my gut. I thought we had an understanding, and we didn't.
What kind of understanding?
We discussed it before, and we had the understanding that it wasn't going to be romantic, that we were both going to go our separate ways, and that it was a gift. Because I told him I couldn't go over and over, and he insisted that he wanted to do something nice for me. He called my dad and told him about it. He told my best friends about it. Knowing that we would break up, he told them that. And so I thought we had an understanding.
Yeah, I want to tell you something. If it doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. What nice thing had you done for him?
I don't know. I was with him. I mean...
Well, he was with you. You
exactly.
mean that's a gift that you were with him?
We just had...
What kind of spectacular thing do you have that other people don't have?
Nothing.
Huh?
Nothing.
Nothing. I didn't think so. I mean, what do you bring to the table that millions of other people don't bring? Why in the world would you think that he would invest a whole bunch of money in taking you away if he didn't think that by doing that, perhaps you could rekindle your relationship?
That's what he did think. I know it is.
Then you did the wrong thing by taking it, knowing that it wasn't going to work.
I didn't... Okay.
How much was the ticket?
The ticket was $531.
And how much cash did you give her?
$2,500.
Okay. Forget the incidentals. You're lucky we're going where we're going. Do you understand? I'm going to hear your counterclaim. And I must tell you, Miss Robb, other things to do today. You want your baby book back?
I want my... Yes.
Why did you take her baby book?
The baby book was actually left. When she had moved out, she left everything that she did not want. A number of magazines, old shoes, etc. that she did not want. She just left them for me to clean up. I found them, and I did notify her that I had these items. She has not made any effort to pick them up for me, to send anyone to pick them up. I still have them.
What are they?
A baby book and a childhood photo album that I saved from the trash pile.
Why did you leave them?
That's not true. First of all, I got home and all my stuff was on the porch the same night we got back. He locked me out so that I couldn't get in and took my key. Everything that was on the porch, I took. Everything that wasn't mine, like the magazines, I left there, yeah, because he threw it all on the porch. So
on what date?
That would be the 19th, the night of the 19th, the night we got back.
What else?
He basically, after the breakup, I don't know what happened, but he became very different. He would show up at my work at least twice a week. And
yes? And what?
And just hover around. He would pull friends out of work and tell them about everything that happened between us. And
I'll get over it. You owe him $3,031. Your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
24-year-old Jeffrey Gibbons is suing his former friend, 21-year-old Sierra Delgado, for a loan to put a down payment on a new apartment.
Mr. Gibbons, it is your claim that you made a loan to Miss Delgado in the amount of $700. She was a friend of yours. Miss Delgado says that she accepted the $700 from you because she needed some money and it was a gift. How long do you know her?
Your Honor, I have known Ms. Delgado since January. I met her at Bartending Academy, and I think that the gift part of that whole story that you just gave me is an utter fabrication.
You have a copy of your check?
Yes, Your Honor. It's a copy of the check and the date when it cleared.
Check is for $1,000, sir. What was the $1,000 for?
Yes, Your Honor. I wanted to pull out $1,000, and she gave me $300 back. So I am suing for $700.
Tell me how it came about, sir, that you knew that she needed $700.
Your Honor, she asked me for money to help pay for her deposit on her new apartment.
When was this?
This was probably January 28th, and I gave the money to her on February 1st.
So you had known her less than a month?
Correct.
Why did you approach him about needing money?
Well, we had met at the Bartending Academy, and we had a friendship going. One night we hung out, and we had relations. After that, you know, I told him I didn't want anything other than a friendship.
Well, when did the plaintiff become more than just a friendship?
I would say it was just a one-night stand.
When?
This was in January, the end of January.
Give me the date.
I don't remember the date. We were drinking.
Think about it.
Oh, well, the beginning of January. I'm sorry.
You're testing my patience. Other than bartending school, what else do you do?
I work at 2 restaurants.
And you?
I am a student, Your Honor, and
Where?
I just got out of the Navy, University of San Diego.
Are you a full-time student or a part-time student?
Your Honor, I am a full-time student, biology major.
Who supports you?
I support myself, Your Honor. I was in the Navy, and I have money left over. I have loans, and the military is supporting me a little bit with the GI Bill.
Where were you in service?
I served in Japan, and I served in San Diego.
When were you in Japan?
From 2000 to 2004. And I was in San Diego from 2004 to 2006, October 23rd. That's when I got out.
Do you remember the time that you had an intimate relationship with the defendant?
Yes, Your Honor.
When was it?
It was about January 15th, because that was when Bartending Academy was going on.
And was it after that that she said she only wanted to be friends?
Correct. I did want to be in a relationship with her. She didn't want to, so I cut it off. I had a new relationship going when I gave her the money. So I thought, since I was a personal trainer as well, and I thought, since I can't be your significant other or whatever that may be, I would like to be your friend, personal trainer. I tried to help her. When I sat down with her at the Cheesecake Factory, I gave her a goal list. This was my way of a contract. It's not a contract, but I was trying to help her. I bent over backwards for this young lady.
Bizarre.
I would have had the money by the end of February, but the girl I was taking the contract over with said she wanted it at the beginning of the month. So I wasn't prepared for that, and I sent Mr. Gibbons a text message, hey, how do you get $700 in a day? Just, you know, joking. He was a friend, and he's jokingly said, stand on the corner of El Cajon Boulevard.
That's a tease.
Yeah.
Madam, you owe him $700.
I don't owe him any money.
Yes, you do!
He gave it to me as a gift.
No, he gave it to you under false pretenses.
Your Honor, I have an
No,
I'm
email.
speaking. If you had already made a decision, Ms. Delgado, that all you wanted was a friendship, if anything, because I assumed that either you were disappointed with January 15th or you found his behavior somewhat bizarre. Either way, I don't care if you go into a homeless shelter. You don't take money from him under false pretenses, and you don't coyly send him a text message, hey, when you know that he wants more from you than you were willing to give him. How do you get $700 in a day? That you may say to your mother or your father. That you may say to your brother or your sister. That you don't say to a guy who is clearly wearing his heart on his sleeve, because that is unkind and cruel and fraudulent. You owe him $700. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Melissa Kina says her daughter, Jamie Jaworski, owes for 2 unpaid loans. Jamie says her mother is conspiring with her ex-husband to ruin her life.
Miss Keenest, this is your daughter.
Yes, it is.
Does she have any siblings?
Yes, she does.
How many?
2, a brother and a sister. She's the oldest.
Is she a cute baby?
Gorgeous.
Is she a nice baby?
Yeah, very well-mannered.
Must have been, because you had 2 more.
Yeah.
Well, you're not getting along so much anymore, and it is your claim that your daughter owes you the balance of 2 loans. One loan that you made to her several years ago in order to permit her to open up a business. That loan was for $10,000, and she's paid back a substantial part of that loan.
That's correct.
over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. You were opening a beauty salon, and you were able to do that through the loan from your mom.
Exactly.
The second loan was for $2,000, and that was more recently, and that was to permit her to get an attorney because she was going through a divorce.
Correct.
With regard to that $2,000, your daughter says there was never any discussion of a loan, that you were ecstatic that she was divorcing the husband, and you agreed to help her secure an attorney so that she could
That's not true, Your Honor.
so that she could successfully conclude the divorce process. So let's deal with the first loan. When was that, Ms. Jaworski?
It would have been in August because I bought the business. I took possession
August of
it.
what year?
03.
And it was for $10,000?
Yes.
Was there supposed to be interest paid on the loan?
No.
Well, tell me how you were going to make this loan with no interest.
I knew that she had money left over from my grandmother's estate.
Put your hand down. What do you mean left over?
Well, my grandmother didn't take care of things how you're supposed to, and so all of the money that was left out of her estate went to the state for her care. But there was somehow this money left over that the state didn't know
much
about.
Money?
I knew of $10,000.
Okay, go ahead.
And so I asked my mom if I could borrow that $10,000 from her because I knew it was in the bank sitting there, and so that there wouldn't be interest or anything on it because we already had the money.
Well, there would be interest on it. If she loans you $10,000, then she's losing the interest on $10,000 for as long as it takes you to pay her back.
There was never any discussion of it.
But you do understand that.
I understand what you're saying, but in my mind, it wasn't that way.
I don't care what
It
was
just
in your
sitting
mind.
there.
What I'm telling you is, if your mother takes the money out of the bank, then she's losing interest on it, so there is a loss. I also don't understand why she should make this loan to you without interest when you have a brother and a sister. Why would she just let you have it all yourself?
Because it was just going to be a loan. It was going to be paid back.
In what period of time?
There was no set period of time because when you open a business, you never know. Most businesses fail in the first 5 years. And
Well,
so,
what happens if your business failed? You mean you weren't going to pay her back the money?
Well, no, I never intended not to pay her back the money.
But you just said most businesses fail within the first few years. What happens if your business failed?
Well, if my business failed, I would still have to pay her, but that was just to help me out. It was my mom helping me out. It was family helping family out.
But she didn't take that money out of the bank.
At the last minute, she had decided that she was going to pull it off of a credit card because she was nervous about the state finding out that she still had that money.
You mean she didn't think that they would find out about it if she kept it in the bank? Go ahead. Keep going. Keep going. I'm listening to the story. So she wanted to take it off of her credit card rather than take it out of the bank because she was afraid that the state would find out.
Well, she was worried that
Go
they
ahead.
would find out and then she wouldn't have the money sitting there.
Keep going.
No, that's really what happened.
Keep going.
And so at the last minute, she decided to pull it with zero interest. And either way, it wouldn't matter. There was
Zero
no
interest for how long? Forever?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? You're in business. You don't have zero interest forever, maybe for a year or two, but not forever.
I never saw any of the credit card information. I have no idea, to tell you the truth.
Well, let's understand this. You knew at the time that you accepted this loan that it was coming off of a credit card. Is that right, Ms. Jaworski?
At the last minute, yes.
I don't care if it's the last minute or the last second. You always could say no.
I know, but I'd already given
Listen to me. You always could say no.
Mm-hmm. And then if I had...
Who cares what happens if you had? If you had to go to work in somebody else's beauty parlor. Now, there was zero interest. And as a business person, you know that zero interest isn't forever. It's for a fixed period of time, which was for how long?
2 years.
That brings us up to 2005. As of August 2005, how much money did you give her?
I haven't split it out. These are just the statements that I have until then.
Well,
I didn't
please-
add that up.
I don't do that. Math wasn't my strong suit.
Me either.
You either? Then you
No.
shouldn't be in business. But if you didn't pay her back in the 2-year period of time when there was zero interest on the credit card, you owe her whatever the interest is. End of discussion. Now, how much is on the credit card?
On the credit-
Not with the $2,000 for the lawyer. I'm not dealing with that yet.
Well, it was all on one credit card, and the balance due on it when she stopped making the payment was $4,995.
Show me.
Ma'am, before you roll, can I say something else?
Well, this is not the last one. That's after I've made a payment, but
Can I see that bird, please?
I've made like the last 6 or 7 payments on it.
Now, you wanted to say something, Ms. Jaworski?
I do, because the interest situation.
Mm-hmm.
She had said when we put it on that credit card that if the interest came due, that she would either take the money out of the estate and put it back on there. So I would never, the agreement was never any interest. It really wasn't.
Listen to me. You knew at the time she was taking out an interest-free loan for 2 years in order to cover this loan that she was making for you. You had 2 years to pay her back. You didn't. Then interest develops, and whether she takes the money out of the bank and loses interest, you still have to pay. Now tell me about the $2,000 for the lawyer.
When we were going through the divorce, or when Chris
When was that?
That would have been in 2000, I believe, 5.
Now, by 2005, we were starting to get some interest on this loan.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay, well, so then we're going through our divorce, and I didn't have the money to retain a lawyer. At first, we were just going to do it ourselves. And I was telling her that he was going to try to get custody of the children from me, and that I needed to retain a lawyer. And what I don't understand is she hated...
Just don't tell me anything other than what happened. Not what you don't understand, not what you do understand. I'm interested in what you understood. Tell me what happened. Now, you were crying to your mother that your ex-husband was going to try to get custody of the children, and you couldn't afford a lawyer. You didn't have any money.
Basically. And
Right.
she said not to worry
And?
about it, that she would take care of it. And she sent me 2 checks.
From where?
From her credit card.
And?
And she wasn't worried about me paying her back. I didn't know how I was going to end up financially after the divorce.
How did you end up financially after the divorce?
I ended up giving him basically everything. I got $20,000 equity out of the house, of which I gave her a check for $4,000.
You did give her a big check.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got $20,000 from the sale of the house, why didn't you pay her back everything that you owed her?
Because I was buying another house, and I was trying to have a little nest egg in case when you're employed by yourself, it's always good to have a little money back up.
Well, but if the only nest egg your mother had was the $10,000 she had of your grandmother's money, why should you have a nest egg and not her?
I don't know. I've really thought about it that way.
But isn't that a nice way to think about it, Miss Jaworski? I mean, how old are you?
I'm 37.
And how old is your mother?
My mom must be 57. Yesterday.
So if somebody has to sort of struggle to put together a nest egg, isn't it easier for you, who's starting a new business, to put together a nest egg than your mother, who's 57? Especially since you spent the money. So it's real nice of you to want to have a nest egg all by yourself. But if what you're suggesting is that your mother said, well, if you don't pay the note back in the 2 years, that it's interest-free, you'll take the money out of your nest egg.
No, that wasn't the way it is. I think.
Well,
you're
that's what you just told me.
But
I'm just following what you told me.
I think you're misinterpreting it.
No, that's what you told me.
No, it's not.
Does that sound what you just told me?
Sounds like what she told you.
That she would take the money out of her nest egg and pay off the credit card and wait for you to finish putting your nest egg together so you would pay her. Duh.
If you have a business and you don't have operating capital and you don't have money to buy and bring things in and out, you can't run a business. And so that's what I used the other part of that money for.
That's not what you just told me.
It is. I had it.
No,
in a
that's
little...
not what you just told me.
I had it set aside so if something happened with
You
the business
just-
that I could keep it going.
That's your nest egg.
Well, I had to because if
You
I
owe your
lose,
mother
if I-
$4,000.
If I lose the
You
shop,
owe your mother $4,000. And I gather that the reason she's here is because you stopped paying her, according to your mother, because you had an estranged relationship for a while. Why, I don't know.
because she's seeing my ex-husband.
Well, that's what you say. That's what you say.
That's not true. I'm seeing my grandchildren.
That's
in her
what you
ex-husband's
say.
house.
I think that makes it very convenient for you, Miss Jaworski,
I think-
because she wasn't seeing her grandchildren, and she wrote a letter, according to her,
Correct.
to her grandson when he was at his father's house, and his father called her and said, if you want to see the boys, you can see them, and she's been seeing them at your ex-husband's house, which ticked you off. So you stopped paying the loan. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,000.
Thank you very
That's all.
much.
Lynette Young claims ex-boyfriend Robert Mangum owes for a loan and for an assault. Robert admits he put his hands on Lynette, but claims she refused to leave his property.
Ms. Young, this used to be your boyfriend. He's not your boyfriend anymore. You claim that you loaned him some money and that he, at some point, sort of assaulted you, although it was an argument that went very badly. Mr. Mangum says that the money that you did, in fact, give him was a gift. There was never any discussion of repayment, and that this assault that you're talking about was as a result of your own actions, that you were a hot-tempered nut and he did nothing but try to escape you. Tell me about this money. When did you give it to him and where did it come from?
February 16th, it came from my accounts.
Can I see from where?
Yes, it's right here.
Where did you take this money from?
It was from my savings accounts.
And you took it out in cash?
Cash.
And what did you do with it?
I let the defendant borrow $1,100 from it, and I spent $900 of it.
Now, you gave him $1,100. And what did you do with it, sir?
I was supposed to buy a car, but it didn't go that way. You know, she spent all her money, so...
You were supposed to buy a car.
Right.
Did you
but
put
she
the money...
blew all her...
I'm speaking. When she gave you the $1,100, where did you put it?
I just had it in my pocket. It was in my possession. I didn't put it in the bank anywhere because it's supposed to be for me to buy a car. But she blew all her money, so I had to use the money to take care of her now.
He was going to say that no matter what happened.
Right, I mean, I'm trying to tell you what happened.
I ask questions. When I want you to do a monologue, I'll ask you.
It's not a monologue. I was answering a question.
No, I just asked you where you put the money. You said in my pocket.
In my possession. Sorry.
Right. You see, we're going to do this in an orderly fashion, like I say.
It's supposed to be used to buy a car.
I have a feeling they look like, look, see, that's attitude. Look at the attitude, right? Attitude, attitude. That looks like a match made in heaven. So she gave you this $1,100. You're supposed to use it to buy a car.
Right.
But you didn't buy a car. You bought a watch instead.
No, I didn't buy a watch. Ben had the watch. Ben had the watch.
What did he say?
Ben had the watch.
Ben. So what'd you do with the money?
Help take care of her, because she blew all her money.
What did she blow her money on?
Ask her.
What'd you blow your money on, the $900? What'd you buy?
I actually blow my money.
What did you buy with it?
I have to eat, I have to pay my bills, I have my own apartment.
Yeah.
And I have to put gas and things in my car, so I didn't actually blow my money.
Well, so you spend your money on your own bills.
On myself.
On yourself.
Doing things that I had to do.
Tell her the truth.
Shh. Just a second. Why should she tell me the truth? That would
Because
make
she's not
it
telling
so
the truth.
unusual here.
She's not telling the truth.
Okay, so
she
blew her money and you had to use the $1,100 on her. What did you use it on? Give me an example.
Food, going out, rent, cell phone bills, all of that nature. But I was supposed to be buying me a car. That was
Were you living together?
Yo, huh? Excuse me? You're not speaking loud enough.
The problem is your mouth isn't closed. So when your mouth is not closed, you
asked
can't
me a
hear me.
question.
You can't hear me. I said, were you living? No, you were
No, we
quiet
weren't
for a
living
second.
together, but we was together every day. I'm answering your question. I'm just...
It's all in the timing, see?
See, we ain't connected here. Maybe we need to slow down a little bit.
We are not connecting, sir. And for that, I say, thank God.
Wow.
So you didn't buy the car with the $1,100?
No, ma'am.
You took her out to eat, took her to parties and things?
Parties, eat, shows, karaoke, everything.
I just want to know where was I at.
Shh. Just 1 second.
I'm sorry.
Just 1 second. That doesn't mean he doesn't have to pay you back. Listen to me. That doesn't mean he doesn't have to pay you back. If he decided to use this money to show you a good time, to play big man, that's his problem.
Hey.
That's his problem. You know, he chose to do that. He could have let you stay home and watch Law and Order or watch Judge Judy. He could have let you do that. You could have had just as good a time. All right. Okay. So now, Miss Young, now I want you to tell me, madam, about this assault, when it happened, and let's try to keep it legitimate, okay? Because I have a feeling that I'm going to get half a truth from each of you.
Okay, it happened probably like a month and a half ago. I was over his house.
Month and a half? What month?
What was it? June?
You're asking me? I wasn't there.
Okay, June, May, June.
May and June.
Yes.
Must have been a terrible assault if you remember May and June. Go ahead, let me hear what happened. You were over on his porch.
Okay, I was over on his porch.
You were sitting on his porch.
He got angry because I wouldn't leave. He wanted to drive my car and go to handle some business. And he wanted me to go inside the house. And I said, no, I don't want to go in the house. He came back, drove around the block, told me, leave my house, Lynette. And I said, I'm not leaving. Why do you want me to leave? He took me by my shirt, grabbed me, drugged me off his porch with my shirt. Tried to throw me in my car. We got into a physical altercation. He scratched me up. I scratched him up. We was fighting, like just fighting. Not like punching each other, but like scratching.
Each other?
Yes. I was trying to defend myself.
Because you were trespassing on his property.
I wasn't really trespassing on.
Yes, you were.
I was invited over his house.
No, Lynette, darling, what he said to you, I want you to leave my house. The invitation is over. You have to leave.
Okay, that's true.
That means you're trespassing.
But when I did say that I was about to go, you don't have to put your hands on me, I would leave on my own will, he took me by my shirt and drugged me off the porch. So that means that he didn't give me an opportunity. When he said move, I didn't move when he wanted me to move. So
That's his problem. He has a problem like that.
I didn't move
He
quick
likes to
enough
be in
for him.
charge.
I didn't move quick enough for him, so he took me by my shirt.
Did you call the police?
Yes, I did.
And he was arrested?
He was arrested.
Just a second. He was arrested. Did you follow through with the case?
Okay.
Look at me. Did you follow through with the case?
I did not.
So what do you want from me? You don't even remember the day it happened. You don't even remember the month it happened. But I'd like to hear your version of the events anyway. Go ahead.
Okay, let me give you a mental picture of this. Now, she's sitting over my house. We had a good day, you know, for probably about an hour.
You did have a good day?
We did have a good day for about an hour. Usually, that's about the extent of how long our good days last, you know. But I need to use her car. She got an attitude with me about using her car, but she finally let me use it. I'm like, just go in the house. You know, it was a bunch of stuff going on in the neighborhood.
What were you going to use her car for?
I had to go make a run. I had to go pick something up.
Make her...
Because I was supposed to be going out. I was supposed to be going out later, so I had to go pick up some clothes. So, but that's neither here nor there. It was a bunch of stuff that's going on in the neighborhood, so I told her, go in the house. You know, I didn't yell at her. I didn't argue with her. Just go in the house. She put on the front in front of y'all. She wanted to play Miss Model, Miss a front, an acting job. Sanaa Lathan. You know, I'm just trying to run it down to you, but in front of y'all, she want to act all nice. But when it comes to me, she's like a terrorist.
No,
She's a terrorist.
Why, just a second. That's what you like about her.
No, I'm actually trying to help her with her problem. I say it's a problem.
Anger.
Right. It's not even anger. It's a mixture of things. She's sensitive, she's emotional, and she's a bit aggressive. So with that chemical reaction, it causes a terrorist attack. But let me get on with the story.
Get on with it in 30 seconds, sir.
30 seconds? Okay. I told her to go in the house. You know, I didn't tell her I asked her to go in the house. She argued with me. Oh, I got to go in the house. Oh, I ain't going nowhere. I'm like, all right, I ain't going to argue with you. Just leave. She said, I ain't going nowhere. Please, can you leave? I ain't going nowhere. So I grabbed her by her waist and walked her down the stairs.
Oh, wow.
You know? So I put her in the car, got in the other side of the car, pulled off. Now, we in the car arguing, fighting, arguing. I'm like, you know what? I finally got like a mile away from the house, got to the light, and parked the car at the light, and got out the car, and started walking home. She come back to my house. Come back, talking about she gonna call the police on me. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Just leave. She called the police over there. I go over there, talk to the police, you know.
Meanwhile, you had an outstanding warrant that kept you for a while.
Right. So that's why they took me.
What was the warrant for, Mr. Mangum?
It was open alcohol.
Open alcohol?
Yeah, in the car. I wasn't driving. The alcohol was just open.
Oh, well, why didn't you go to court when you got that ticket? Huh?
I missed the court date.
You have other big things to do? What kind of work do you do, Mr. Mangum?
I used to work at Sherman-Williams, but I'm just a student now.
I used to be taller, but now I'm shorter. What do you do now? What do you do now?
I'm just a student.
A student of what?
College.
Where?
Wayne State. Criminal justice is my major. I plan to be like you one day.
Mr. Mangum, the system isn't ready for you, sir.
I know, but in a few years, they'll be ready. They tuning up for me.
All right, Mr. Mangum, you owe her $1,100. You wined her and dined her. You're a guy who's supposed to pay those things. You're not supposed to take her out with her own money. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,100. You get zero, nothing, zippo for the assault. You probably brought on yourself. That's all.
25-year-old Rayanne Fisher is suing her ex-boyfriend, Brandon Wolf, for writing a bad check on a shared bank account.
Miss Fisher, this young man used to be your boyfriend, and you actually lived together. You made the mistake, because you didn't listen to Mother, of opening up a joint bank account with him while you were living together. And after you broke up, he wrote out a check. There was no money in the account, but there was evidently one of those privileges that allows you to write checks even though you don't have money in the account, and you were forced to pay the check because there was no money in the account. And you want him to pay the money back, plus whatever fees were charged to you. Mr. Wolf has an interesting defense and an interesting counterclaim. First, let's discover when you broke up. Date.
The date was July 11th of 06.
And when did you write out this check?
I don't actually have the actual date of it.
But I'm sure you do.
Yes, I do. July 16th of 06.
After the bloom was off the rose, right? Yes. And at the time, Mr. Wolf, were you aware of the fact that there was no money in the account?
Yes, I was.
So tell me why you did that, sir.
First
tell me why you did it. Then tell me why you don't think you're responsible to pay her back the money for it. And then we'll get to your counterclaim.
Okay. I set up with the finance company to where it was a post-dated check.
For what?
For a down payment on my Jeep.
So you gave the finance company a post-dated check?
Yes.
And?
And I had plans on putting the money in the account within the 2 weeks of my next paycheck.
Yes.
By that time,
she had already paid this off.
Well, they had to have deposited the check. What do you mean, Mr. Wolf? I want you to try to clear out the fuzzies in your brain. Now, if you had put the money in the account before they cashed the check, there would be no problem. She wouldn't have known anything, right? So you didn't put the money in the account.
No.
Or the finance company cashed the check before they were supposed to.
Correct.
Well, which one is it? I gave you two choices. They can't be both correct.
They actually cashed the check before the post date.
Well, so the bank probably shouldn't have done that, right?
Right.
But you had the money.
Right. It was a misunderstanding.
Fine. So why didn't you give Miss Fisher back the money? Since you had the money, let me give it to you this way. You had the money. That's what you told me.
Right.
You were going to put it in the bank.
Correct.
Your finance company, for your truck, deposited the check early. That's what you're telling me.
Correct.
But you had the money. What's your first name?
Rayanne.
Say to Rayanne, Rayanne, I'm sorry, this was all a misunderstanding. I have the money. I'm going to give you back whole. Why didn't you give her back the money?
Well, what happened is on my Jeep, I ended up getting it repoed from me.
What month?
It was August, I think.
So we're talking about now in July. July, you had the money
Right.
to pay the down payment, so why didn't you just give it to Rayanne, who paid the overdraft protection on the truck?
I never asked her to pay it.
Who cares? You had it. Why didn't you take care of it?
I didn't feel I had to.
Standing here today, do I change your mind, sir?
No.
Well, then you're an idiot. You the girlfriend?
I'm the fiance.
Fiance. I think twice about making babies with him. Listen, your debt, your problem. You had the money.
Right.
I also don't believe that a finance company takes a post-dated check and allows you to take a car. That is a lot of who shot John. So, now that I've already determined that you owe her the money, how much money does he owe you?
$592.90.
$592.92. That's what you owe her. Now I am prepared, sir, to listen to your counterclaim.
What happened is I was in the hospital for a week, and one of my payments fell through on my Jeep.
Another payment fell through.
Yes.
Like an accident looking to happen.
They sent a tow truck to her house.
To whose house?
Rand's house.
Why would they think it's at her house?
Because it was registered under the address.
So the tow truck came to the house and said, where's the truck? Go ahead.
She brought the tow truck over to my sister's house, had it towed, sat
No,
in...
no. She didn't have anything towed.
Oh. She brought the tow truck over to my sister's
They
house.
said, where is this car?
Right.
And she said, it's not here. Maybe it's at his sister's house. I'll show you where that is. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So
correct. She sat in the parking lot also, took pictures, sent them to me on my phone, and also put them up on her MySpace page.
So what? So what?
I didn't feel that was right.
Maybe she would have felt more kindly if she wasn't out $600 for your truck while you're fooling around with your new fiancé. Do you understand? One
Yes,
good
ma'am.
turn deserves another. Your counterclaim's dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $592.92. Thank you.
As long as I see you may step out.
Alan Winter says ex-boyfriend Rolando Conejo owes for a truck loan and for assaulting him during a dinner party.
Mr. Winters, you and the defendant were in a relationship for a couple of years, according to what I've read, lived together, and then the relationship ended, unfortunately, unamicably. It is your claim that you loaned the defendant some money to buy a truck.
Yes, ma'am.
And then it is your claim that he assaulted you.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says that he paid for the truck through services.
Correct.
Took care of your home, took care of things for the 2 years that you lived together. Also paid money towards your mortgage every month that should be counted towards the truck debt. And this truck debt came about as a result of a loan that he had with someone else that he had been involved with. And when the two of you became involved, you said you don't want any strings attached, so you paid off the truck loan to the other person, thereby making him only beholden to you for this debt.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, when I met Alan, he offered, and that was his idea. He said, Rolando, I can help you with this. As long as you take care of the chihuahuas, help me remodeling the house, because...
Just a second. How much did you pay for the truck?
I paid $7,538 for the truck.
And how much did the defendant pay you back?
He, on June 1st, he gave me a check for $3,000.
What was the $3,000 for, sir?
For the truck.
Fine. Leaving a balance of $4,538. Because if he told you to take care of the chihuahuas in exchange for the truck, you wouldn't have given him $3,000, right?
Right.
It's going to be like shooting fish in a barrel.
I was thinking that's a lot of chihuahuas.
Your Honor.
What?
He also said, if you help me to remodel the house, that would contribute towards the loan. So in my mind, I always understood that, okay, I'm going to take care of the chihuahuas. I'm going to help in remodeling the house.
Just a minute. Forget the chihuahuas. What did you do to remodel the house?
We demolished the back of the house. That was hours of labor. And I also helped him to title a new bathroom and kitchen.
How many hours of labor did you put in the back?
Well, throughout the 2 years, I would say more than 100 hours.
Yes.
Originally, there were 2 loans. And last Tuesday, we went to small claims court in Utah, and he was given financial credit for the work that he did on my house.
Really?
Yes, ma'am. And I have evidence to prove that.
Okay, so that was one loan, but you've already resolved the issue, therefore,
Yes, ma'am.
with regard to any work that he may have done to pay down a loan.
Yes, ma'am.
So why are you bringing it up again? You only get credit for the work once, sir.
I don't know. He's the one that is doing all this right now. And we had a fight the last time, and...
You can only bring up the work once. Now, you want to go into this assault, sir?
Yes, ma'am. On December 1st, 2006, I was having friends over for dinner. I was having Mike and another friend over for dinner. Mike is my witness.
Mr. Winters, this assault happened December 1st, 2006.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you and the defendant separate?
In July of 2006.
Your Honor.
In July, shh, put your hand down, you'll have a chance. So this assault allegedly happened after you separated?
Yes, ma'am. We remained friends.
Fine. December 1st, 2006. I'll hear you.
Okay. He dropped the dogs off because he provided dog care for me. But the chihuahuas were owned by both of us. So he came over at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, dropped the dogs off, went up to a job interview, came back to my house at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were talking, and I asked him if he was drunk. And he said, no, I'm tired. I haven't been drinking. I knew that he had been drinking, so we went to get groceries because he was cooking Costa Rican dinner for our guests. And on the way to the grocery store, I told him, I said, Rolando, I know you're drunk, and I know you lied to me about it. You don't need to lie to me about being drunk. I knew he was going through a hard time or whatever. So when we got back to the house, it escalated into an argument, and he started to approach me. And the police had already been involved once before. And so I put up my hand and I stopped him. I said, don't come near me. If you come any closer to me, I'm going to call the police. You know that you'll be arrested immediately. So he didn't. And then I said, I want you to leave my house. You're not to stay here for dinner. I don't want this argument to happen in front of friends. And he refused to leave. So he sat on my couch for hours. He said nothing. So I sat on a chair opposite him. And I was reading or whatever. And all of a sudden, he just pops up. And he's very animated. And he said, okay, we need to cook dinner. This was a few hours later. So he starts cooking dinner, and I go in the kitchen, and I'm chopping things up for him. And I told him, I said, you have to promise me that you will not drink anymore tonight, and that you will not argue with me or bring up an argument while my friends are here. And he promised. So Mike and my other friend came to the house, and Rolando was very animated. He was a very gracious host. His dinner was delicious, and we had a really nice dinner. Well, after dinner, we were playing a game called Shut the Box, and it requires each player to have 10 $1 bills. I knew Rolando did not have that money, so I offered to give him 10 $1 bills earlier, and that's one thing that caused an argument earlier because of the money issue. So we were in the front room, and he would come in and out, and he was very pensive, and he would sit and watch us, and then he would disappear. The game becomes very, very rambunctious. We were screaming and yelling and having a good time and laughing. And we were also drinking cocktails. And the next thing we know, Rolando showed up in the living room wearing nothing but my bathrobe. He had gone into my bedroom and taken off all his clothes, and he had his underwear and my bathrobe on. And he came in immediately, started verbally attacking me, and Mike and I watched him, and we didn't comment. We said nothing. My other friend is a person that I also used to date, and so Rolando started to argue with him, and my other friend started to defend me. After a while of hearing Mr. Conejo just scream and yell, the three of us went into the kitchen to get away from him. And so...
And left him?
Yes, ma'am, in the living room. He followed us into the kitchen. He picked up a glass of water, and he went to throw the water on me, but he hit my other friend, who's not here today. And then before I knew it, he was just hitting me in the face. And I have pictures of my face
I'd like to see
to show. I also have a letter from the Victims Resource Center from Salt Lake City. So Mike and my other friend grabbed Mr. Conejo and held him down, but he wouldn't stop fighting. There was blood all over my kitchen. I went into the bathroom to see what my face looked like because I'm a flight attendant. They won't allow me to fly when my face is cut up. And it came to a point where Rolando would not stop. He just would not stop. And so my friend picked him up physically and threw him off my front porch. He landed in a pile in the snow. And my friend wasn't even sure if he was hurt because he landed on a sidewalk in the snow.
And he was wearing his bathrobe at the time?
He was wearing my bathrobe at the time. And so a few minutes later, Mr. Conejo once again jumped up and took off. And that's why I didn't call the police.
Okay, Mr. Conejo, let me hear what happened on December the 1st, if you remember.
First of all, I want to mention that we were still in a relationship.
Wonderful. What happened on December 1st?
On December 1st,
Tell me how he got all cut up.
On December 1st, he called me and said, Rolando, come over. I want to invite you to have some cocktails to drink. And I went over to drink with him. And then he's like, we can invite some people over to play games. And that was Mike and his other friend. And Alan and me and his other friend, we were drinking. I had been in this relationship for 2 years. It was very dysfunctional. Alan would come from flying, and he would...
I want to hear about December 1st.
Well, we were drinking, and Alan punched me on the face because I told their friends that I had to put this facade pretending that we were in this good relationship. So he punched me in the face because I said that, and then he started attacking me, and we got in this fight. His friend...
May I see the photographs of your face, please?
I don't have a photograph, but
he punched you?
He punched me first.
Then did you... I'd like to see the police report.
I don't have one, but this is a pattern that Alan has.
I don't want to hear pattern. I want to hear police report.
In May, we had a fight.
I don't want to hear May. I want to hear December.
I don't have a report on that.
Where did you go after you ran away?
I didn't run away. He kicked me out of the house.
Where did you go?
I went to John, that is my witness.
John, stand up. John, you have a last name?
Crapo.
Mr. Crapo, you remember December 1st?
I do.
I'd like you to describe the defendant's condition when he came to your house. First, how did he get there?
He said he walked. It's about 3 blocks away.
Then what was he wearing?
A bathrobe.
And how did he appear to you?
Very distraught. He was crying. He was bleeding.
Listen to me. Was he drunk?
Yes. That's it.
Okay. You have a drinking problem, sir? You have an alcohol problem. You know, I've been in the business for a long time. I can tell alcohol problem from a mile away. You have to stop drinking. He may be able to handle it. You can't. You have to stop drinking. Are you living with this gentleman now?
I am.
You know he has to have help in order to get rid of this problem. Unless you have a problem, too. I don't know if you have a problem, too. But he has a problem.
I understand what you're saying.
Have you suggested to him that he get some help for his drinking?
No.
Why not?
I'm not sure it's to that point.
It's that point. He needs help for his drinking. He may be a functioning alcoholic, but he needs help for his drinking.
As does Alan, I believe.
Not the same way.
Okay.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Thank you. Bodies are excused. You may step out.
Paxton Durlow is suing tattoo artist Breezy Barrett for breach of contract on the bartering of a vehicle. Paxton says Breezy was supposed to tattoo him in exchange for a truck.
Mr. Durlow, you traded your truck for services to be performed by the defendant, who's a tattoo artist. She paid some in cash for the truck, is that right?
Correct.
And the remainder was to be worked off in this barter arrangement. Is that right?
There was also a bike included in the deal as well.
That you got?
Yes, correct.
Your claim is that Miss Barrett did half of the tattoo and then modified the agreement that you had to complete the tattoo by telling you that you could only come for your appointments between 9 and 12 at a time when you work, therefore requiring that you go to somebody else to have the tattoo finished.
Correct.
That's what you want to pay for, plus some harassment nonsense. Everybody's been harassed. You know who's most harassed here?
You.
And Miss Barrett says that you caused her to lose business because what you did was you kept canceling appointments. And in addition to that, you sexually harassed her. So she's counterclaiming. When did you make this deal with the truck?
I'm not exact on the dates at all. I mean, I have the contract, I guess, in here. So
okay, so let me have the contract, please. Okay, so the sales agreement requires that the tattoo is to be completed in 2-hour sessions, no more than 3 weeks apart, unless otherwise agreed to by the parties, and that's dated 7/21/06, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
When did you start the tattoo?
I was already in the middle of tattoos. This deal came on after I was already getting work from her.
So when you were supposed to start it in 2-hour sessions, according to the agreement?
Yes, that would have been starting that date.
So what happened?
Well, the appointments were going well. Then I would get an occasional push. She would ask me if I could come in on a different day because there was a person that absolutely had to have that appointment. And it was a way for her to make money and that she was a sole provider for her home. So I agreed. And then it became redundant. And then
what?
I didn't agree any further. It started getting to where I couldn't get anything done.
Did you ever cancel appointments yourself?
The last time that I had an appointment to go to was one I canceled.
How many times did she change your appointment?
I believe 4 times, maybe even more.
And it was always because she had a paying customer?
A paying customer or something came up. She did have a mother who was terminally ill, which I fully understood. And she also changed appointments there too, which I did not consider in the claim.
Okay. When did she tell you about this business of only coming in the morning?
After a discussion of me not getting anything done, the whole conversation was via text, and I have it, if you'd like
I'd like to see it.
Would you like to see pictures of the truck as well?
No.
Okay.
Not necessary. Oh, well, here's your problem. Breezy, you're Breezy, right?
Yes.
Here's your problem. It is clear to me that the two of you have a dispute in these text messages with regard to whose fault it was, etc. You know, clearly you were not yourself as a result of your mother's illness, because that's clear from these emails, and that there were certain stresses in your life. But when you say to him, in the future, you shouldn't off your artist until after the work is done, would be enough for me to say that you breached this contract and I wouldn't let you do any work on me. That's a threat. I mean, I don't know anything about tattoos except that I've seen them. They're done with needles, right?
Correct.
I wouldn't let anybody near me with a needle who said to me I wouldn't take any action until after it was all done and I was happy. You want to say anything to me?
I would love to.
Go ahead.
After 6 months of tattooing on him, I canceled 2 appointments.
Well, that's too many.
One being I'm a sole provider of my children. I only work 5 hours a day because I have preschool pickup, drop off, daycare closes.
Whatever. Listen,
Okay.
he's not your mother. He's not your sister.
He's
not your brother.
He was a friend.
Just a second. You canceled 2 appointments. Not tragic.
My second appointment I canceled was because his appointment was 2 days after my mother died.
You canceled the 2 appointments.
He called and made 4 appointments, 2 weeks, 2 hours back to back. No-showed on every one of them. I only work 5 hours a day.
Show me.
No-show.
Show
It's
me.
right
He
here.
says that that's not true.
Right here.
It's in pencil, Your Honor.
It doesn't matter if it's in pencil.
Let me take a look at it.
That's my appointment book. Here's my apprentice who helps make all my appointments.
Do you remember independently making these appointments?
She wasn't there at that time.
Just a second. Just answer my question. Do you remember independently making these appointments, yes or no?
During that point in time.
Just answer my
No.
question. Fine. Thank you. I want you to give me the date of the first appointment. Would you give that book back to her, please? Give me the date of the first appointment you say he missed.
Monday, January 15th.
What was the next one?
1/19/07.
Well, that's not 2 weeks apart.
No, he called after no showing and said, sorry, can you get me in? So I did. I slid him in.
Okay, well, that's not 2 weeks apart. First you told me he made appointments 2 weeks apart over a month and didn't appear. So now it's 1/15/07.
Okay.
Then you said he called you and said, I'm sorry, could you fit me in? You made it for 1/19/07, and then you say he didn't show up.
Then he had February 4th.
Go ahead.
Then he had February 16th.
Can you show me, Ms. Berendt, anywhere in these text messages where you say that he missed appointments on the 15th, the 19th, or February 4th, which is why you decided to change the rule, because you have a lot of emails going back and forth, a lot of bad language going back and, well, from your end. But there isn't, according to what I see here, one place where you wrote in your email that he missed appointments on January 15th, January 19th, or February 4th. And all of these text messages were written on February 6th. Not one place do you talk about 3 missed appointments.
Those are his text messages.
Show me yours.
He That phone was dropped in the toilet. But he could easily have left off the first 4 emails for you.
He could have.
You know?
And your phone maybe could have been dried off from the toilet. You have to take care of the rest of his tattoo. That was your contract with him.
I never had a problem with that.
That was your contract. How much will it cost to finish the tattoo?
It's an estimate because, I mean...
How much is the estimate?
I have it right here if you'd like to see it. He believes it to be between $1,440 and $1,800.
Can I see, please?
It depends on the work.
Where is it? Is it on your arm?
It's on both arms. And
got it.
There's not more than $600 left there.
Well, then you should have done it yourself.
I would love to.
Well, you can't because you threatened him. Okay. Now, you also don't mention anywhere the sexual harassment that you talk about. You want to tell me about it?
Yeah, the entire time I worked on him, it was fondling me, grabbing on me. I leave my life for you the whole time. That's why she's
good.
here.
Okay, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. The counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Kim and Lon Weishart say Kim's son, Ralph Smith, owes for the balance on a truck he totaled.
Whose son is he?
My son.
Well, we have a son and we have a stepson.
That's my son, his stepson.
How long have the two of you been married?
15 years in September.
And how old are you?
23.
How long have you been together?
16 years.
So you were a little boy, so I can understand when you said he's ours. According to your complaint, you co-signed a car for him.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How old were you when they co-signed for this car loan?
20.
You don't have to reach in. This modern technology will actually pick up your voice if you stand straight. Now, the agreement that you had with your parents was that you were going to make the payments on the car. Is that right?
For the first year.
I'm going to get back to your year agreement in 1 second, because that sounds sort of interesting. In any event, what happened was he made sporadic payments on the car, and then he totaled the car.
So what actually happened was we co-signed for the truck for him. He was doing very well at that time. They had just had their son, bought a new home, had a good job, and was doing very well. So we co-signed.
He totaled the car, and you're making payments on it, on the loan.
That's correct.
Now, you want him to take over those payments. That's what the case is about, right?
Yes, about paying his truck payments.
Right. They co-signed the car, and you're going to convince me, sir, why I should believe that you only agreed to make the payments for the first year.
Yes, I am.
And I tell you, I am all ears.
Okay, first, my parents flew into Tennessee from Texas, and he asked me, did we want to go out and look at trucks? Because my car seat wouldn't fit in my car, really, for my child, and his golf clubs wouldn't fit in there. So anyway, we go to look at cars, and he's saying he likes this truck and asked me if I like it. And I say, yeah, I like it, you know. And he's telling me how I need a truck for my car seat, for his golf clubs, for when they come into town, they can drive it, and I could drive it while they weren't in town.
Keep going. Come on.
That's it. I paid the first year's payments. I had money saved up from income taxes, and I told him I could make the first year's payment, and he said, don't worry about it, we'll make the rest.
How many vehicles do you have?
2.
One for you and one for?
Them.
One for them?
Yeah, the wrecked one.
Oh, we're not talking about the truck. How many vehicles did you have at the time that you were making the payments?
I had one before the truck, including the truck, too.
And what did you do with the second one?
I sold it so I could put the money down for the truck.
Good. And did you put the money down for the truck?
Yes, I did.
How much?
$1,000.
Were you supposed to keep the insurance on the truck?
Yes, I was.
Did you do that?
No.
Why not?
Because I canceled it about 3 weeks before I had the accident.
Why?
Because I had bought a new house, and I'd rather have my house than my truck, so I can at least sleep in it.
Well, that was ridiculous. You don't drive a car without insurance. What would happen if you hit somebody and really hurt them?
I would be in trouble.
Right. And what do you think's going to happen to you today because you didn't have insurance?
I don't know. I guess that's up to you.
You're right.
So we have pictures of the truck. We also have a copy of the loan agreement and then where we paid the truck payments from our checking, if you would like to see any of those.
I also have some evidence also. They had co-signed for a car, the car that I had sold. That's what I also had told him. That car ran fine. I didn't need another vehicle, but...
You just told me that the car seat for your baby didn't fit in your car.
It did. He said it didn't fit good
No,
enough.
you told me it didn't fit.
It fit. I mean, we had to drive him around for a few months before then, so he had to fit somehow.
Not necessarily.
Well, you think we rode down the road with him in our lap?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Your Honor, that was casual conversation when we came in to visit into town. We were going somewhere, and he was struggling to get the car seat in the car. And that's when I said, wow, you just need to go get a new vehicle. You know, I recommended getting a truck with an extended cab as well so that it could put the baby seat in and out of the truck easily.
Who did you...
Pile of rocks.
Were you drunk?
No.
Did you fall asleep?
No. It's the first time I had been down this road and we were going to where we live.
Well, a pile of rocks doesn't move, sir. This is a lot of damage to do on the car.
It was summer and the trees were sprung out, obviously, and they have a stop sign, a head sign, and it's only about 3 feet before the stop sign. With the trees bloomed out, you couldn't really see it at nighttime, so I went to stop. And
so whose fault do you think that is?
Mine. I have the car anyway, like I was saying, that I had before. They co-signed for it. I paid every payment on it. I had 1 year lease, and I paid it off in 10 months.
Well, sure. You know why? Because you still have it.
Why would I not pay the truck if...
Because of something that you just told me, sir, which was that you wrecked it. And you wrecked it at a time when you had no insurance on it, and you didn't have insurance on it because you chose to put money into your house rather than pay your car insurance. That's why you didn't pay them. That's the difference. Did I just answer your question?
No.
Well, I think I answered it. You may not like the answer, but I answered it.
That's not why I didn't pay the payments. I did not pay the payments because I was only supposed to pay 1 year, and that's what
No, did you make any payments, sir, after you totaled the truck?
No, I didn't, because my
Did you make payments before you totaled the truck?
Yes, I did. But it was 1 year, and it had just so happened that...
You mean just
that
serendipitously? You wrecked the truck on the first-year anniversary. That was serendipitous.
It was a month after. It was a month after he wrecked it. And, Your Honor, for that month of May, which made it up to a year, he didn't make that payment either. He was having a hard time at home with his family. They weren't getting along too well.
Why weren't you getting along too well with your family?
Because we were pinched for money. That's why I had to cancel my insurance. We wasn't making bills. We were stressed out.
Well, that's unfortunate. Did you buy a house that was too much for you?
No, I did not. I bought a truck that was too much for me for 1 year, I guess, and didn't pay the insurance.
No, because if you were stressed out, then you're stressed out over more than just a truck payment.
Exactly.
Then what you do is say, listen, I have to sell this truck, and I have to buy transportation because we need transportation, but I can't afford this truck. You don't just stop paying. Does your wife work?
Yes, she does.
And you work?
Yes, I do.
How much do you earn?
$390 a week.
And your wife?
She earns $500 a week.
And your mortgage payment?
Zero. $350. We rent now. We sold that house.
Did you make a profit when you sold it?
Yes, I did.
And didn't pay a payment then either.
I bought a new
tax
vehicle.
check, not a new vehicle,
Well,
$1,400.
Listen, there's no question in my mind that it was very difficult for you to come here to sue him. How much did you have to pay on the truck?
We paid approximately up to $6,000. The first year from May of 05 to 06, we made payments on the truck every month. He had called.
When did he total the truck?
June.
In June of 05.
So where have you been the last 2 years?
Well, it's kind of hard. I mean, you know, you love your children and you want what's best for them and you try to help them. And we had told him a couple times down the road, you know, when we felt like him and Susie were getting their lives together, that, hey, don't worry about paying us what you owe us on the truck. Just start paying the payments now, and we'll wipe the slate clean if you start paying the payments. And we've done that a couple of times for him.
4.
And he always says that he'll pay, and then when that month rolls around, he doesn't. So, and it's hard for a parent to take their child.
I don't say that. I never said I'd pay a payment after that year.
Oh, sure you did. It's ridiculous to think otherwise.
Say that.
Ridiculous to say otherwise. So the total amount of the payments was $13,263. Is that right? And he paid a year's worth.
He paid a year's worth.
And that's
just
from
short of
04.
1 month.
I got right here what I paid.
It was
Where
actually
is the
11
truck?
months.
Where is the truck now? It was totaled?
It's sitting in my sister's driveway.
In her yard.
Her yard.
Where did you get this figure of $3,696 from?
Well, this is why, Your Honor. From May of 05, when we started making the payments, he called us at the end of May and said, look, I'm not going to be able to make May's payment. And we said, all right, we'll help you out. By the time it was ready to make that payment, June had rolled in, and we said, okay, we'll make June for you as well. So there was 2 months, because we know they were struggling a little bit. And shortly after, he wrecked his truck. He totaled it. You know, he told us a few days later that he totaled it and that he had been drinking, so.
I want to know where you get the $3,696. Get there. Well, get there faster.
Okay.
It's $221.05 a month. There were a few months that he said that he was going to make the payment, did not make the payment, so there's late fees and things like that added on to that. So from the time that he wrecked the truck, which was June
of 05.
05.
Yes, ma'am.
It was July 1st.
And it may be in July 1st. The end of June, maybe July 1st. But
Go ahead.
So anyways, from that point on, Your Honor. Okay. That's where we came up with the figure.
Got it.
I have all my
proof that you've made
paperwork for the payments. I was only supposed to make 1 year's payment. I have them, and I have the paperwork where they co-signed before, and I made every payment and even paid it
I
off
believe
2
you
months
made every payment. You also have the car.
I
Stop
don't have the
making-
car. It's sold.
What you gave me here is the payments from your bank to West State Farm Bank. Is that where the truck was
Yes,
financed?
State Farm.
Very good. Listen, don't co-sign for anybody anymore, even your kid.
Yeah, this is our second time.
Huh?
This is
This is
our
our second
oldest daughter got us as well.
They probably made the same deal with her.
There's no deals. It's just trying to help your children.
Don't take advantage of your parents. They seem like very nice people.
I'm not taking advantage
Yeah,
of them.
judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,696. That's all. Step out.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.